Hello, just taking a few seconds to get my things in order. My marble molds, my tank pressures, iced tea. Alright, so today we're going to make a brown enamel marble. I'm going to use all kinds of different colors of brown because brown is a great and underutilized color that you really appreciate, and it has a lot of texture like tree bark and the forest floor and stuff like that. So people are always going these really bright colors, and I also like enamel powder because it has a very nice soft texture, like we saw in the pre-show, some of those marbles where the design isn't in rigid panels or areas. It like flows over and through different areas. So anyway, I'm going to get a white glass gather. So I'm going to push these rods together to get the middle of the marble. And then I'm going to shape it into a cylinder. I'm going to shape that cylinder into probably a rectangular long cylindrical piece. Then I'm going to get some colors on those flat portions and enamel powder and some other stuff just to make it interesting. Then I'm going to case everything in clear and finish up the marble, and we'll try to keep it short tonight because it's very hot in the studio, 90 something, and I would rather not be here for an hour or more than an hour tonight because I was already melting a bunch of glass earlier today. So let's get going. We'll start the propane and then kick on the oxygen. That's too much. So you see me messing with these little dials, and I'm changing the ratio propane to oxygen and also the volume. And you could just go on and on about that. And I do, but not here. Here I'm just going to get it so it looks nice, and I'm going to get my eyewear. These protect my eyes against UV light, and they also keep you from having to see the sodium flare. So when I flash these and you see this yellow poofy stuff coming off, and then you look through here, no poofy stuff, poofy stuff. So I'm saying like this. Now if I get this over the whole lens of the camera's color autocorrects and the flare kind of comes back. So I've been playing with some ways to get rid of that, but for now that is not happening. So, one thing I did want to do before I make the marble today is I want to make a non-clear UV glass rod. And so I've got some amber that I'm going to mix with some of my very ancient UV glass that's got a very powerful ultraviolet light glow component. I'll be right back when I get one of those. So these are unusual. You can almost tell they're like super glowing in the dark. This end I've already melted, but this end you can see has come from the way it was, and it was actually a hollow tube that was pulled down. There's a hole in there. It's hard to see. That focused. Anyway, let's mix down a rod. What I'm going to do is get a smaller gather of clear, put some stripes of this UV on. It'll end up becoming clear. The opacity will go away as it mixes with some other clear glass. We'll pull it into a strand to use, and then I will have it in my arsenal for other marbles and beads throughout the next month. And if I like the way some of these browns are coming together, I will probably do a whole run of different brown enamel marbles this week if the temperature settles down a little bit. So I'm just sort of willy-nilly adding some of that UV glass to this amber. let's get it mixing like we would do a normal gather. You're twisting it, and then you change the angle and it draws in a little bit more of the rod, and then you straighten out. Get the gather hot again, bend it, that brings in more of the rod, and that's all we'll need for today. I'm just going to melt this off so that I don't have any of the amber glass stuck to my uranium rod. Uranium glass. Now I'm going to get one of my little stainless steel handles, keep the end, attach it to the glass. I'm going to melt off this amber rod until there's only amber. I don't want any of the uranium on there, so my rods are clean again. They're not cross-contaminated. All this color I'm going to mix is right in here. And you can see it's not completely mixed, so I'm going to heat it up, spin it around to get it homogenized. And there's a couple different ways to mix stuff. I mean, you could just sit here and spin it, but I also like to fold it, like as if you were doing Damascus steel or something like that, where every time you fold it and then twist it, you are mixing it that much faster. And I really push the handle in there, embarrassingly so. We'll get this scraped back down. I'm going to just heat the rod way back up, scrape that glass down. Now it's closer to the end. Do it again. The dangers of trying to position your work in a magnifying glass and keeping track of it. Since it's something I'm not always thinking about, it takes a period of time to readjust, a couple minutes. There. Now it's mixing up nicely. See, well, no, you can't really see that it's mixing up nicely. It's got some bright areas on it, which usually means it's not mixed. So let's just keep twisting it up for another minute. I'm just pulling, if you see me using the head of the torch, I'm pulling the glass off of the handles so that it's all between the handles. Now I'm going to get really hot and pull it into my thread, which I'm going to use to decorate my wall. So here it goes in just a second. Common tactic for me that I like to tell people about is that I go past the amount of heat that I want in the glass, and then I wait for it to come down, and then do my manipulation. So many people who are doing things that you see watching glass, it's very slow. They like start heating it, they go to see if they can get it to move, they can't move because they didn't get it hot enough, so they go back in, and they look like they're being really careful and deliberate, but they just didn't put enough goddamn heat in there, so they have to do it over and over again. No, it's a matter of preference, really. I just like having it go fast most of the time, so I like to get things a little hotter. That's the nature of torch working too. It's the glass is smaller, it's easier to get much hotter than you would in a glass blowing furnace. Alright, so now I'm flashing the white rods. They are a little bit sensitive to temperature change. So flashing them like this is gradually heating them up past the 500-degree mark, which will hopefully keep them from shattering. So they must be warm enough because they didn't crack. Now I'm just starting to get a gather together, and this doesn't have to look neat. Once we have enough glass melted together, then we'll shape it into a cylinder, and from that cylinder that will become the core of the marble, and we'll get that shape down very nice. This core will actually be the bulk of the marble, so we'll get it to be probably about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Then we'll shape it into the cylinder and we'll start picking up color. Two of the panels that I want to pick up are enamel powder, and the other two, one is going to be aventurine, and the other is going to be some dots of that brown that I showed you, and then some of the uranium glass that we just made. And something interesting about that uranium glass is that it did not like that amber glass that I just mixed it with, because it cooled on my bench I'm looking at right now, and it turned black. I'll try to show it to you in just a minute. Well, once I get this core to the right size and unattach one of these rods, I will bring one of those threads that I pulled up into the magnifying glass, and you'll see it. It looks terrible. I wonder what chemical reaction happened there that made it go black. I'm going to look into that. Alright, so I've got a lot of glass here, enough for this marble. So I'm going to melt off one of my rods that I was building the core with. And then I'm going to attach it to a larger metal handle, because that's what I'm going to be holding on to this with. It's kind of blobby right now, and so I'm just going to start shaping it into a cylinder. Not even a cylinder, just more cylindrically shaped. I want this end to be a little bit convex, and I'm going to attach my rod right in the middle of it. Now I'm going to detach the other white rod that we were building the core with, and we'll have a blob of white glass on the end of the metal handle. And it's kind of cylindrical, but now we're going to shape it. The first thing I want to do is shape it into a cylinder, and from the cylinder, then I'll press it into a long rectangle. So I'm going to heat it up, and I have a plate made out of this same graphite sitting next to me that I use to press the glass onto. This was the plate in front. But a lot of times, to go a little faster, when I'm rolling it on that plate, I'll also be rolling it from the top with one of these graphite paddles. I have a slightly bigger one that I'm going to use. You can see how worn it is on the corners. Been using it for a long time. So I'll roll it, get the cylinder going, I'll also flatten the end. It'll take me a couple of tries to get it to the right shape. I'm going to improve its shape, then I'll reassess and figure out how to improve it one more time. So now I'm rolling it on the marver plate. I'm also squishing it with my paddle. And it's becoming more cylindrical. See, there's a little blib on the end. I've got something on my torch. I couldn't see. There's my glasses. A little piece of glass got in there. That's better. Alright, so the first pass got me semi-cylindrical here. I'm going to get it even more cylindrical, and I'm going to flatten this end a little bit more, and then from there I'll start shaping it into the form where I'm going to be doing my color pickups on various panels. So from here I could make it 4 panels, I could make it 6 panels, I could make it 8 panels. You could make it triangular for 3 panels, which is nice. You could make it kind of like a flat disc and pick up stuff on one side and not the other. These are all great, fun ideas that I want to try now. I guess I have tried all of those ideas, but it's always great to go back and try those ideas again. Alright, so we're cylindrical enough here that I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to shape it as a rectangle. The shape would probably be a little bit better after 2 passes, except for that it's a little cold, because I like to show you guys what's going on. You can tell it's hot because it's flopping down. So it doesn't look like it, but it might be like 1800 degrees. It's pretty warm now, so I'm going to shape it. I'm going to put it on the marble plate and press. Rotate 90 degrees, press again, and then I'm going to repeat that a few times. And then I'm going to have a square cylinder. Now, I have different colors of enamel powder in little metal trays. I'm going to pick up some brown first. Make a marble brown. I'm going to pick it up and then go. Just keep pressing on that powder so I can get a few layers all in one go. So there is the brown on one panel. On the other side, I'm going to put some complementary to the brown color. I think let's do orange. Now we have 2 white panels left. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't show you that. Uranium glass that turned black instead of transparent amber, which I wanted it to be. So I'm going to throw those aside for now. Yeah, maybe I'll put a few dots in. I'll hide a few dots in there. So I'm going to do some dots with this light brown on that white panel right there. Them in a little bit, and just little tiny black dots on those dots with this uranium amber black purple. That doesn't make sense either. But now it will have something that will show up in blacklight. It'll be fun. So now on that last white panel that remains, I think I'm going to do some of that amber dots. It would be nice to have a stripe there. Since we have dots on the other side, let's put a stripe right in the middle of that, this amber glass. Go from one end to the other, so I'm going to get a big gather on this rod. I'm going to touch it to one end and swipe it down, and then melt it off in the heat. It'll happen pretty fast. So touch, swipe, melt off. Gave me a stripe of amber glass in the middle. The light. Now on the orange enamel, I'm going to pick up a little bit of aventurine for sparkle. I'm going to do the same on the brown. Other side, just a little bit of sparkle. Can't tell if that's the orange. That's the orange. I don't know. Orange and yellow and red all turn black. Some browns do, some you can still see them a little bit. There's like an interesting phenomenon of how your brain interprets the color of this heat, orange, overlaying orange, on other colors as you look at them. These glasses help a little bit. So now I'm going to melt all this stuff in. Then I'm going to return it slightly to a cylindrical shape. And that'd be perfect. Because after that, once it gets close, I'm going to get a large clear rod and do the same thing I did with that stripe of amber. But I'm going to coat the whole marble with it. So I'll do like 10 swipes or more, leaving like an 1/8 to 3/16 layer of clear over the whole marble, and then I'll melt that. But first, I need to get this all smooth so that when I put those stripes of color, or those stripes of clear on there, I'm not trapping a lot of air bubbles. So right now I've moved over to my marver plate, and rather than just rolling it, I'm just sort of pushing down high spots first and getting a little assistance on a push. I don't want to roll it and smear my designs. I'm going to smooth them up just a little bit more. So while that's smoothing, I can start heating my big clear glass rod. And I'm heating this up quite a bit, and I'm going to let the surface calm down and cool and get harder before I start putting the clear on. But right now I'm using surface tension and rotation and heat to get that surface smoother. Now it actually is looking pretty smooth. And if you've seen me finish a marble, I'm usually going for a smoother appearance than that, and you can tell by the reflection of the lights above. You see how they're jumping? Because the surface is a little bit uneven. It's okay at this point, because this is just an intermediary point. This is essentially the completed core for this marble. Got all my color on a white core. Now I'm going to case it, coat it in clear glass. I'm using a large diameter rod because I want the casing to be an 1/8 inch plus. If I wanted it to be thinner, I could use a narrower diameter rod. And just put a very light coating on it. But I want to increase the diameter of this marble a little bit. And those ends, like where the handle's attached to, and this free end, those are going to get pinched down. And actually quite a bit of glass is going to come off of there, that waste glass. It'll be just a nub that I'll either recycle or I'll remelt to use in a different way. So I'm going to do those stripes again. The first one goes on, comes off. You can see it. There's a big one there. Now we'll do another couple of those. And now I'm just going to keep the rest of what I'm working on warm a little bit farther back in the flame. I don't want it to get too hot at this point. I'll put my sign together. Covering some of that enamel powder. Now I'm just sort of grinding away. I need to get probably 6 or 7 more of these clear gathers going on here. You see most of the marbles still uncovered. Let's get a few more in and see where we're at. Reassess. This is probably, once you get this method down for casing, this is very useful for beads and marbles. Anything where you want to put clear over something to make it bigger or to add a slight magnification effect. Especially in marbles where the surface of the marble forms kind of a lens and magnifies everything inside of it. See those dots a little bigger now, even though it's only lensing it along the axis of that cylinder. Looks like we've got about 2 or 3 more gathers here to do. We've got everything covered except for the last panel of enamel. Panel meaning that 1/4 of the surface area. I want to turn it into a rectangle. Alright, that's finished with the covering of it. Now I'm going to take the clear and sort of push it down over the corners of that cylinder, dragging some of the color underneath and bringing it all to a point on this free end. Then I'm going to switch the handle to that end and do the same thing to this side. So I'm just heating like the last 25% of this cylinder while keeping the rest of it warm. So I'll like heat the whole thing, then concentrate on the end, heat the whole thing, concentrate on the end. Right now I'm just going to concentrate on the end till I can start getting some movement to push that clear over the last bit of color first, and then start dragging the color and breaking the corner of that cylinder to bring the color to a point. Now I'm going in with a pick to grab that amber stripe I put in, because the end of the stripe wasn't going to the end. I want it to go past sort of the hump of the heel of that. And so I can kind of poke through the clear and bring that color out to a point. Now I've got a lot of nice clear there. That's going to be, I know it's going to be removed at the end of the marble. So that's a great place to stick in my next handle, which is going to be, I'm going to use to manipulate the other side. Then when they both have that little clear nub on there, I'll put handles back on both sides, and then I can impart my twist to this marble. So that got attached. I'll melt off this existing steel handle on the other side. Most glass blowers will call that a punty. I'm calling it a handle today. For you guys, if you've never seen this, because that's what it is. I'm heating the whole thing for a little bit, and then I'm going to concentrate on just this edge. I'll push the clear over any remaining color that was not covered, and at this point there really isn't any, but I'm just going to try to even it up a little bit. And I've got some water over here that I'm dipping my tweezer into every couple times I touch the glass. Otherwise this will stick to the glass and never get it out. Alright, so now I've bent that clear over. I'm just going to make sure the colors I want get dragged through to the end, so that when I come back and clean up these ends, it'll look closer to what I have in my mind, which is the color all coming together at the end, meeting at a point at the end of the swirl. Alright, now I've got a clear blob on this end. I can reattach my punty, heating the rest of the marble while I'm heating that up. That handle up. Alright, so now I have both handles attached to me. Let's get in there. Can you see all the colors? Yeah. Alright, so now I want to evenly heat the whole marble. And then I'm going to, as I'm spinning it, I'm going to start catching with one hand or the other hand to impart some twist to the marble. I'm not quite at a twisting point yet. Just heating. So this will take maybe a minute. Probably not that long. It's starting to go already. There's some parts where the clear overcoat, the clear casement is a little bit uneven. So right now you see I'm wiggling this back and forth and twisting it, and I'm doing a lot of small adjustments to make sure I'm hitting the portions I want to have a little extra heat so that they'll come back towards the center of the marble. It's already pulling into a more even shape. And now I'm going to be starting to add some twist as I go. You can see it's starting to twist now. Let's give it a little more heat, especially in the middle, where it's going to resist the twist the most. So it has the most mass. And now you can see the design starting to come out. Twisted design. That I can't get. There's a wall beyond the magnifying glass there, so I can't quite show you the whole thing. The magnifying glass, but I can show you like that. And that's just about there. Give it a little more twist. I can still be able to see those dots, but I want them to be like long, weird discs. Slugs. Alright. I melted off one handle because I was done twisting. And now I'm going to clean up this end. I'm going to use a glass blower's jacks for lamp workers. I'm using a much smaller glass blowing jack. And for me, it's a barber's scissors because it's very thin. And I can use, it's very accurate all along the whole blade of the scissors. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in about a 1/4 inch from the end and start making a line of indentation. And I want it to be perpendicular to my axis of rotation. And the way I'm going to determine if it's perpendicular is as I rotate it, it's going to pull out into a little knob like that. Now, I can grab the knob and keep pinching at it, narrowing the diameter of its attachment point, and still giving the end some twist, because I'm going to let the scissors catch and pull as I'm turning it, but I'm also going to be pinching it down to a narrower and narrower little attachment point. And then I can go back farther on the scissors like this and chill that and snap it off. Now, you can see the design came to a nice point at the end. And wow, came out good. So, I'm not used to having things come out quite as good as I'm talking about them, as I am when I'm just concentrating on them. So, this end is now, the design is complete on that end. So, but the shape is a little bit off. So the first thing I want to do is I want to improve its shape as far as its sphericalness on this side. So I'm going to heat about 80% of the marble that's unattached, the unattached side. I'm going to get a marble mold, which are a series of graphite hemispheres. I'm going to go to one that's a larger size, and I'm just going to give it a little pressure and some spin, and then I went to a smaller one just to use the rim to get that more spherical. And that is good enough for now. Now, I need to work on the other end. And I want to keep my end nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little blob of clear. I'm going to melt it into that over my design. Like that. Little anchor point. Now I'm going to heat up my stainless steel handle and go right into that little glass blib, and then heat up the other attachment point and melt it out. What I did is I just heated this. It got so hot it melted the glass it was attached to, and I was able to pull it. Now I want to heat this side of the marble. Grab it with the jacks, just like I did on the other side. First thing I'll do is I'll make a line of indentation that's perpendicular to my axis of rotation. Once I have that, then I will constrict that attachment point between the waste and the marble, but use that attachment point to further impart twist to the pole area of my marble. So I have the line of indentation perpendicular. Now I'm going to heat it. And there's still a lot of heat in the marble, which is going to allow it to twist, and then the little constricted nub is a little colder, so I'm going to be able to use that harder, smaller portion to give some twist to the larger, more melted portion. And then it got so chilled by the scissors, the jacks, that it came off at the right time. And that design is twisted at the end, and the twist matches the other end and all the way around. This is going to be a heck of a brown marble. It's got some sparkle from aventurine frit. It has orange enamel powder on one panel, brown enamel powder opposite it. It has a stripe of clear amber glass, light brown, and some brown dots that have been pulled into elongated dots, that in the center of those should be some very UV active black dots, the eyes of those little slugs. Now I'm using a larger diameter hemisphere and then a smaller one. I'm changing the axis of rotation as I spin using the rim of that mold, and that is perfecting my sphere shape. It's a combination of pressure, surface tension, and heat. And I apologize, it's very hot in here. Wiping the perspiration off my face. Alright, so now that's getting very nice and spherical. I'm going to give it one more pass to the graphite paddles. So a bigger one, just gently, and a smaller one, also gently, changing the axis of rotation as I spin. Now, I just want to get the ripples out of there, and I'm going to go to cherry wood, which is a wet paddle of wood that have holes drilled in, that the edges have already been burned. So this will gently shape the marble, harden the surface by cooling it, and it will ride on a layer of steam from the water trapped in the wood underneath the charred portion. And I'll see if I can show you that procedure. When I use those little rim molds, I'm going to use, there's a lot of holes in the paddle, which we'll see, and I'll use each one for about 2 or 3 seconds only, so I'm not boring into this wood with this 2,000 degree glass. So, here's the cherry wood marble mold, a series of holes. So I'm going to go into one, spin a little bit, go to the next hole, spin a little bit, next one, spin a little bit, and that goes right back in the water. And now I can put my final attachment point in a smaller handle. I'm going to use a tiny glass rod, and I'm going to melt the tip of that rod and make it even a little bit smaller. So my marble has to be of a certain temperature, and my little glass rod has to be of a certain temperature, and then I put that right together. Attachment. Hopefully that's a firm enough grab that I can finish the other side of the marble. So what I'm going to do is superheat that metal handle, and I can pull it out. Now I put that little tiny piece of clear glass on there to protect the end of my design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully heat that, pull it off, I'm going to just tidy up that end, pull the glass off at the point to where I want it to be. It's a nice little vertex. Now the sphericalness on this side is a little bit off, so I'm going to heat about 60% of the marble, maybe 2/3. And then, since I have a very small attachment point, I'm going to be very gently going into a bigger marble mold, then a rim mold. I can't really give it any pressure, just spin it and let gravity do its work, and you can see it's better. I'm seeing a little bit of imperfection, so I'm going to do that procedure one more time. Heat the whole thing. Just gently run it through a larger hemisphere for just a second or two. Then get it in a smaller hemisphere and use that rim to get as spherical as possible. Changing the axis of rotation as I spin it. If I can spin it fast like that, it means it's very spherical. So now the only problem is that the surface has some ripples, so I'm going to essentially flame polish this until all the ripples are out. And I can see I'm using the reflection of the lights above me. You can see there's a few spots where the light reflection is jumping. So a little more plain polishing. Then I'm going to let the surface calm down and cool a little bit. Give it one last pass with my cherry wood marble molds, because the shape has come off just ever so slightly. You can see it's still very hot. So we're going to give it another couple seconds. Let me get my cherry wood mold ready to go. Hello! Let's give those a spin. Now, this marble is done and brown. So now I'm going to chill that connection point with my jacks, my scissors, and I'm going to tap it off in a fireproof board I have here with some indentations to keep the marble from rolling. Then, tap my torch clean. I'm going to take the torch and polish off that last little attachment point. I'm going to take my time. I'll do like a heat for like 3 or 4 seconds, then let it calm down. Heat it for another 3 or 4 seconds, let it calm down. Because I don't want to try to do it all at once, I'll oxidize the glass. But I want to go fairly quickly. And I did it in about 4 iterations. So now I need to transfer the marble to the annealing oven. So I'm going to heat these specially made tweezers until they're orange. Then I'm going to let them cool until they just go black, and then that's the right temperature for grabbing your marble. Grab it. Now I have it. I'm going to put it in the annealing oven. And so the annealing oven is essentially a kiln that's being operated at about 960 degrees, and that maintains enough heat in the marble so that any stress within the molecular bonds, because I've mixed all kinds of different glass and colors together, can realign to their natural relaxed state. And then I will gradually put the temperature down to room temperature over a period of several hours, and that marble will be strong molecularly and be ready to remain in that form for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, forever, unless you break it. So don't do that. All right, well, thanks for coming, and I will see you again next week for another marble demonstration. If you had any questions, I will read back and get to you in an hour or so. All right, great. See ya. Thanks.